Did you know that I have 19 stitches on my face from 2 different security incidents that I had while traveling? Oh, and I also foiled a kidnapping attempt in Guatemala. Hey the Ramblers and Rovers, this is Miguel. Today we're going to be talking about how to stay safe while traveling, what the key to staying safe while traveling actually is. There are plenty of videos out there that give you tips on how to stay safe while traveling, and although these can be really good tips on their own, they're usually not woven into a comprehensive system that we can actually use every time we get back on the road. So let me tell you a bit about my experience. I am an adventure traveler. I've been on the road for the past 8 years, collecting and sharing beautiful experiences and stories from all around the world. I've traveled in very, very sketchy places. I've hitchhiked through cartel territory. Here we are traveling. I've been in very complicated border zones, like in the border with Mexico and Guatemala. I've spent some time in different conflict zones. And like I've said, I've had my fair share of security incidents. I just want to preface this by saying the world isn't as unsafe as we think that it is. Locals all over the world have an amazing capacity to be kind and generous and protective and to want to help out travelers. I'm not trying to feed a fear in you, but it would be foolish to admit that in an entire world there aren't any sticky situations you could get into. This video is for that 1 or 2 times when you do get in that sticky situation. And kind of the reason I wanted to make a video about this, more than just exposing like the scars on my face, is to share with you the system that I developed so that these things don't happen to you. Because every single time that I've had a security incident and then I look back, I always realize that the problem wasn't that something happened to me. The problem was that I put myself in that situation to begin with. Hindsight is 20/20, right? So this is where my system comes in, which I call the theory of compounding risk. So what is the theory of compounding risk? After looking back on some of these incidents and taking some lessons away, because you're stupid if something happens, but you're dumb if you don't learn anything from it. So what I learned from these incidents was that they were entirely preventable. So the theory of compounding risk says that the more elements of risk you stack on top of each other, the more probable it is that you will have some kind of either accident, mugging, or any other kind of incident that will put your property, health, life at risk. So let me explain kind of how this works. So you have all these different things that you know you shouldn't be doing, but these things don't happen in a vacuum. Different things happen and compound on each other to elevate the level of risk that you're taking at any given moment. So a typical example of the theory of compounding risk in practice would be when all these risk elements stack to create the perfect storm and there's just no way that something will not happen to you. So what are some of these elements of risk? The top one on the list is being drunk or being high. So losing your awareness, not being aware of your surroundings, not having full control of yourself, not having awareness of who you're with, what the security situation is that is unfolding around you. Other ones include being out alone by night, being in an unsafe city, traveling in an unsafe country. When these start to compound, you can start seeing why it would be such a problem that they do. So imagine if you're drunk out of your mind, it's nighttime, you're alone, you're walking in an unsafe city, in an unsafe country, and it just becomes much more probable that something will happen. So most security incidents can be prevented with a little bit of foresight and a little bit of research and awareness of the places that you're traveling through. So if you know that muggings are a common thing, then you just never put yourself in a situation where somebody would just come and mug you. So you're not in a situation where you're physically vulnerable and you can get accosted, like being out alone by night. You don't travel around with your valuables on you, or at the very least you don't travel with as many valuables on you and you sure as hell don't show them around. So the idea is to not engage in as many risk behaviors, so you have a very base level of risk. Don't get me wrong, random things can happen to you or to anybody, but in my experience it's just highly improbable. The key takeaway to this is don't expose yourself, and don't expose yourself by knowing what you're getting into. When we travel, there are risky behaviors that we want to partake in, and it's okay. Sometimes you just want to go and take a midnight stroll. Sometimes you want to go out and party. Unless there are glaring red flags, for the most time those situations are fine. But it's just planning around those risky behaviors so that you are not taking unnecessary risks. And by unnecessary risks, I mean risks that you don't actually want to engage in. And to do this, we have to look for mitigating factors that actually keep us safe while we are engaging in these riskier behaviors. For example, let's say you get very drunk at a party. So that would be a really great risk factor. But you had the good sense to go out with a sizable group of people, some of whom you can consider at the very least to be your travel friends. So these friends that you made keep an eye on you. They let you know when the taxi's going. If they see you talking to somebody who's actually pretty sketchy, they pull you back into the group. So that mitigating factor could be the difference between abject disaster and a regular-ish night out. So the key takeaway to this isn't that you shouldn't engage in risky behaviors. Like, that's fine. Adventure involves some kind or some level of risk, but a good adventurer knows that they shouldn't take any unnecessary risks, because the most important thing in any adventure is to come home safely, as whole as you can. So I hope you guys found this video to be helpful. Hopefully this opened your mind to how people in these kind of situations actually gauge how risky they are. I will be creating more videos on how to travel safely, especially in countries like Mexico and Colombia, just to name a few. And I will make my own video on safety tips eventually, but I did want to actually kickstart this conversation with this theory that is what I actually use to stay safe while traveling. Like, share, subscribe to our channel. It keeps us growing. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers so that we can keep building this amazing community of ramblers and rovers from all over the world, just like you. So we need your subscribe, and I'll see you in our next travels. Stay safe, amigos. Keep traveling.